Hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome to this small place, I could say, a warm place that we call K'anchary Andean Yoga. Today, beautiful day here in the northeast of Brazil. Some birds, some children, some chicken chanting their songs in this afternoon. I'm Ram Flores. I'm part of member of the Andean Mystical School, and today I would like you to be invited, to feel invited to this, not lecture, we could say lecture, but actually I wanted to be a chat about a very essential thing on being human beings, which is imagination. But first, I would like to tell you a little story. For some time, I met this guy, amazing guy. It's called Nasruddin. He's a figure in the Islam culture, religion, and he shows in his errors or his situations that he got in some of the contradictions that we felt usually when we met other people, we grow our ego. So Nasruddin was walking to coming back to his house, and beside the river he realized that floating in the waters was coming a golden cup. We could say a cup made of gold, like a treasure, and it was floating, coming through his direction. So he expected it and took it from the water. And when he looked at it, there was some water inside the cup, and he saw his own reflection in the water. And suddenly he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was someone inside, and maybe you are the owner." And he left the cup again in the water. Maybe you can take some wisdom from that story. But what I'm interested in to explore in this story and the rest of this chat is imagination. How this man who saw something obvious, his reflection in the water, could understand or realize that there was someone inside the water. That's the product of imagination. Imagination, it's difficult to give a concept. There was a very wise and interesting philosopher called Gaston Bachelard, French philosopher who spent a lot of ink talking about imagination, and he didn't want to give a concept about imagination, but the 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 product or the actions of imagination as a creator of the world, imagination as a dynamic force, imagination as the way to be in touch with the cosmos. Imagination obviously is a very human capability. Maybe we can say the most profound and sacred capability. We talked about sensitivity last week, and I want to talk about imagination because it's the other part that holds the practice of K'anchary and the yoga. Sensitivity, our body, feeling, being alive and feeling, interacting, letting the world to be known through the body. But imagination, creating the connections that make us feel that we are part of something bigger, something that embraces us, something that connects us to everything. We were using imagination from the beginning of history, when we were around the fire, telling us stories to let the fear, which is a very instinctive emotion, to be calm, to be relaxed, to come out of the survivance and start to live. That's a very important difference. That maybe is the main difference between this kind of animal and the rest of the animals. We obviously we are animals. If you check the DNA of a human being and a chimpanzee, it's almost the same thing. But what makes us different is this capability to create links to different aspects of our lives and bring them back to expand, to create new ways of seeing things. When we were around this fire in the beginnings of history, as we were creating stories through words, those sounds, and because of our imagination, linking those sounds with experiences, linking those sounds with images, with emotions, make us create new kinds of worlds. We changed the world. We, with our imagination, transform the world around us. First, inside us, and then, and obviously you can see it outside. We are the masters of transforming things, creating things. Right now, this amount of metal, plastic, maybe glass, or whatever it creates this computer is make me talk with you wherever you are. So imagination comes from within us and is fed by this quality of feel what's around in a very flexible way. That's why imagination is related with dreams, with the oniric experience, the experience we have every night. If you are lucky, many people sleep at daytime, but most of us sleep at night. So when you go to sleep, you close your eyes and something change inside, and your imagination expand and link everything with everything, bringing you to a very plastic experience, very flexible as any dream. That's the matter of the dreams. But when we wake up, maybe we think that that's the end of the plastic or the oniric experience, but actually, no, it's here. Every time you stop for 1 second and look at um, a leaf. Recently, it rains. Stop raining, leaves are wet, and the sun reflects, the afternoon sun reflects in those leaves, creating a layer of golden and shining gold. It's gold. In your imagination, it's gold. And the interesting thing is, as I'm saying it and you're listening, listen to it, you are recreating in your own way, these words. That's imagination. We are creating because we have learned some ways to communicate. We created some ways to create a common sense. Consent is common sense. We create a bridge as we talk. Any communications, this, as we talk. If you understand more or less, you understand what I'm saying. Inside yourself, you are recreating those sounds to make it flow as images, as emotions, as memories. Bachelard understood the imagination in two ways, classified the perception of imagination in two ways. One of them is superficial, it's about the images flowing, the aesthetic of the images, the form. It's images flying away. That's a matter. That's a sense of imagination. But the other sense is related with the essence of things that are imaginary, the matter of the table, the matter of the imagination, the weight of the imagination, the roots of the imagination, like the soul of the proper wind affects us through imagination. In the Andean cosmovision, in the Andean cosmovision, imagination is related to our head is related to the inspirations, is related to the blessings coming from the sky, coming from the sky. Recently, I read some articles about the influence of the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, for many, many years, was not clear what is the function of the pineal gland. It's very small piece of us. It's like a rice grain size. But recent studies, or that's maybe the line of research, think that the pineal gland is related to the production of a very powerful compound, chemical and biochemical compound called DMT, which is naturally in our body and make us expand the connections in the brain in the way that it creates the possibility of imagination. And more recently, that's very curious. I think 2 or 3 days ago, I was reading The Guardian, the English newspaper, and it came out this article about a study on ayahuasca, which is essentially a bomb of DMT in your body. And they studied the influence of the DMT in our brain. And when this amount of DMT comes into our brain, it makes like a massive mix of maybe chaotic uh, connection between parts of our brain, like expanding in a very massive way our imagination. So the science slowly start to understand the imagination as a state of our consciousness. State. I say state because when you drink those psychoactives like ayahuasca or any psychotropic, it changed your state of consciousness, bringing you to different way of connection in your brain. So if the pineal gland is responsible for the natural production of DMT, and this bring us to imagination. Think with me this. The pineal gland, the most important activity is when we are when we are children, in our childhood. And slowly, when we become adults, the pineal gland start to calcify, like becoming a piece of stone, stopping to produce this DMT. So for me, that's clear, and all the old cultures show us that we need to practice or uh, maintain our capability of imagination. Is the source of any kind of art. Imagination is the well that every artist drink. Imagination is intense and flaming, like Oscar Wilde wrote. And for us, in our practice, in K'anchary Andean Yoga, is fundamental because we are developing in our practices these ritual movements that uses our body in all the senses, the physical sense, our emotions, our feeling of, or trying to feel the energy as it could be a kind of vibration, but the imagination create the link, create the bridge, the possibility to be in touch with the matter of what we are calling or invoking. And I'm not just making poetry of it. In our ritual movements, and as any ritual of any culture, when you invoke the force or the power of the waters, you are realizing that water is not just a name or not just an idea, it's a kind of vital force, an expression that is part of our life. And through our sensitivity and imagination, our imagination like opens a window, and then you can cross that window, or you can let this vital force to be in touch with you. Imagination is the food for any kind of spirituality. Imagination brings you to the possibility to feel this common fabric that is made life, common fabric. Imagination takes you out of yourself, your very small, fragile, and little animal, and brings you to the possibility of feeling the entire cosmos. You are part and you are expression of that cosmos. And that's possible because we can imagine. So in the Andes, imagination is related to our forehead, to our forehead. In, in some part of the Andes, they call it Kanchisñawi, Kanchisñawi. That's the translation for that is the seventh eye. We have many eyes in our body, not just our eyes. Many eyes in our feet, in our hands, in our costco, our sonco, our heart, and in our forehead we have an eye. It's interesting how this idea is similar to the Himalayas culture with the third eye. It's very, very close to the idea. So this eye brings the possibility of the light coming from the Hanakpacha, the sky, and let us see. When we have lack of imagination, we suddenly start to lose the feeling of being part of something bigger. We start to um, in some way the completely lack of imagination is cynicism or insensitivity. As well, if we are too much imaginative, we can fall into fantasy, which take us out of reality as well. So, as we try all the time to teach our students, we always need to use imagination in a sober way, in a proper way. Imagination in a sober way help us to be in touch with the divine. So I want to invite you to a very simple exercise. Very simple exercise. I want you to imagine, as I'm saying it, something inside is being prepared for it. Imagine that uh, you are looking to a sunrise, to a sunrise. You can see it on the horizon. It could be now a sunrise in the coast, in the beach. So you are watching the sea. You are sat down in the sand, and as I'm saying it, suddenly inside those images start to come from somewhere. And in the horizon, you start to look at the reflections of the sun start to come out. The sun coming out from the horizon. You can see it because you can imagine that as I'm saying it. So that sunrise is linked in the Andean culture to the beginning of the reality. It's not just the day. Pakari Pacha in Quechua is the name of uh, the sunrise. The sunrise is Pakari Pacha. And the same thing literally means the existence is giving birth. No, actually, uh, the start of the existence. The start of the existence. Pakari is like becoming or starting. Pacha, existence. So Pakari Pacha is the existence starts when the sun comes out. So that situation is related with an element or with a essential force, the air. And the air has a spirit called Taitawaira. Taitawaira. That's the translation for that is the grandfather wind. So that time of day, the sunrise, the start of the cycle of life, or cycle of day of life, it's the same thing. So that sunrise is a chance to be in touch with that aspect of the vital force. So I'm gonna show you a gesture to be in touch, to expand your imagination and feel like the white, feel like the white. So as we imagine this sunrise, we're gonna join all our fingers together like a flower bud, and we're gonna put it in our forehead. All the fingers together in our forehead. We're gonna close your eyes. Oh, before closing your eyes, just look at me and you will see what's gonna happen. We hold our fingers. Movement is just so easy. The main issue of this ritual movement is our imagination. So put your hands here in your forehead. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, you're gonna create in your hands this horizon, and you're gonna imagine that you are holding the sun in your hands. The sunrise is in your hands, and you look at it, and you are representing and presenting yourself to the spirit of the air, like the white. It's a game. Don't worry about it. You're not gonna get it wrong, because if you use your imagination, you could actually and absolutely, I'm absolutely convinced that it's possible to be in contact with the wider. So join your fingers in your forehead, close your eyes, breathe in, and as you breathe out, open your eyes and look at your hands and imagine the sun in between your palms, and come back to your heart. So again, join your fingers and put it in your mouth, in this belt. The belt of the head is called kulichumpi. The belt of the throat is called kolkechumpi. Kulichumpi, meaning of kulichumpi is the violet belt. In our throat is the silver belt. It's related with our communication. So join your fingers and put it in your throat or your mouth. Breathe in, and with all your concentration, breathe out and imagine the sun between your fingers, and come back to your heart. And for the last time, join your fingers and put it in your heart. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, find the sun in between your hands. Look at it, create it with your imagination, and then in the silence, try to be in touch with Taita Waira. and come back to your heart. This little exercise, very simple. It's a game, as any ritual. We need to be in the state of child playing to break the boundaries of my very small existence and be in touch with the wind. We can do it. We've been doing it from the beginning of humanity. Every time a child take a piece of plastic in the shape of a lion, a piece of plastic in the shape of the lion, and he or she starts to make sounds and make it walk and fight with a hippo, all those situations, maybe you can see he's or she's just playing. For the child, it's absolutely real because of he or his or her imagination. That piece of plastic becomes a lion. It's the lion itself fighting with the hippo. That's the power of imagination, and that's why we call it the secret key to open the gate to be in touch with the divine, to be in touch with the vital force in its different qualities. And that's why it's one of the main issues related to the practice of K'anchary and the yoga. These and many other things will be uh, digested in our next training for teachers of K'anchary and the yoga. We're gonna start our training next Saturday in 2 days time, and it will be a 16-week training. We're gonna have weekly classes every Saturday, and we're gonna try to bring all the students to this very interesting and at the same time mysterious garden that we call K'anchary and then yoga, because in some way it's a practice, some way it trains you, your body, it trains your sensitivity, it trains your emotion, it trains your imagination, but at the same time brings all these aspects together to make your own experience to be an oracle. You are trying to receive the signs of your own living landscape in all the aspects and listen to, we call it the purpose or the common sense or the song of your landscape. And that gives you the possibility to be in harmony, to be in balance, to be in aim. That's the proper Quechua Andean word, aim. To be compromised and to be in the right place and in the right time. Some kind of synchronicity. You are synchronic with the rest of the dynamic forces playing around your sphere. When it happens, you can feel that you are in uh, harmony. You feel joy for being alive. And that's why we want to train you, and we want to train you to share with others. To share with others. That's the main issue of this training. I want you to understand in the most deepest way what K'anchary Andean Yoga can do to bring you to the divine connection with your reality and how to share with others. And that could be not just interesting for yoga teachers that want to maybe expand their abilities, people who works with health, uh, people working with children, educators in any way, people who are healers. So important to be in touch and receive the blessings of the divine. It's not me healing, it's the divine through me healing. That's the main issue of healing. So, as I say to all my students in Andean healing or Andean cosmovision, you need to have a, a daily practice of improving and shaping your relationship with the spirits. Maybe that word doesn't sound for you, with the vital force in its different aspects. If you have that, your life will become in harmony, and when it happens, naturally, it overboard to others. You suddenly need to serve to the others. That's why I think this training could be useful not just for you, but for your own development as human beings. So I want to share with you the link. You can find all the information in this link. I'm sharing it in the chat, and I'm gonna share it in the description of this video. And if you have any doubt, just don't hesitate and talk with us. I'm, as maybe some of you know, I want to share as much as I can, as deep as I can, all the wisdom I receive, because it's my responsibility. I assume that responsibility with my masters, and I want you to try to get most of this experience. Even this is an online training, but I am presenting the possibility of uh, creating an event at the end of the training here in Fortaleza, the last days at the end of July. We're gonna confirm those dates with all the students. But that's the a possibility to be together here in a beautiful place. Obviously, this is a beautiful place, and we're gonna find some powerful places to feel the force of the landscape in its different uh, vibrations, and we're gonna train how to translate it to something that you can share with others. So, if you're interested, please you can access to that link and the link in the description, and feel free to get in touch to ask for any doubts. And I hope you join us next Saturday. We're gonna hold Zoom meetings, and at some points we're gonna in some of those meetings we're gonna transmit through YouTube for the publics, the networks, so we can start to train our abilities with others during the course. So Tanya's there. Thank you for being there, Tanya. Any doubts, just don't hesitate and send us a message. I hope to see you next Saturday, and I'm, as always, very glad to share to share some of the visions I received from my master. So thank you, thank you, thank you. A big hug to you, and see you in the next excuse. Bye bye.